Hello and welcome to Twilio Weekly Episode 3. This is all about Signal today. It's going to be a bit of a different show. Most of the show is going to be an interview that I conducted with Greg Baugues. We'll get to that in a second. But Signal is coming up next week, starting October 16th with Superclass all-day training, and then the 17th and 18th featuring general sessions and breakout sessions, closing with an epic party called Bash the night of the 18th. Over on Twitch, during the entire show, I'm going to be doing a live stream. If you head over to twitch.tv/Twilio and follow us there, you'll know when we go live. I'll be wall-to-wall broadcasting, getting you an on-the-ground experience at Signal. This wall-to-wall live stream is the closest you can get to Signal without taking a flight out to San Francisco. I'll be starting the live stream Tuesday during Superclass and carrying it all the way through to the end of Bash. Since you'll be hearing a lot about Signal from me next week, I figured we'd bring in a guest this week to talk about Signal. Without further ado, let's get to the interview. I'm super excited to be joined today by Greg Baugues. He heads up our developer community team at Twilio, and he's been involved in Signal this year and in Signal's past, so I'm really excited to have him on the show today. So without further ado, Greg, hi.
Hello there. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. So before we get into like specifics, I just want to know why people should be excited about Signal 2018 and sort of what goes into the preparation of this big show.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I assume that if you're listening to Twilio Weekly right now, you have some interest in Twilio, like perhaps you're a developer, you've built something with Twilio in the past. And if that is the case, Signal is the event where once a year we try to get the largest collection of Twilio developers in one place, and so that we can tell them about what we've been working on that year, so that we can give them talks and resources, so that they can like dive deeper with their knowledge of Twilio. We bring in folks who can talk about experts from developers from outside of Twilio to talk about topics that are ancillary to working with Twilio. We also throw this huge party called Bash, where it's kind of like, I'm not necessarily one who loves after parties, and I love Bash. It's like a conference after party built for developers with like challenges and different. This one's I don't want to spoil the surprise, but it's gonna be awesome. I think of it as like the after party for developers who don't like after parties. And so like the thing that excites me first and foremost about Signal is there's going to be like 2,000 people there. And the thing that they all have in common is Twilio. And they're great people. I think that we are just incredibly fortunate at Twilio to have this incredible developer community. And this is the largest collection, the largest gathering of those developers that we have all year. And we really construct Signal people have been thinking about Signal now, really since last year, but working in earnest on it for over 6 months. So like Signal is where we're going to make the biggest product launch announcements of the year. The developers who attend Signal are going to be the first developers to play with those products. We have 80 breakout sessions, and probably about a third of those sessions are deep dives for developers who want to really go deep with their technical knowledge of Twilio. And so we have like the PMs and the developers who build our messaging products, who build our video product, who build our voice product. And they're going to be there giving talks about how to do that work better. And they're going to be there so that you can ask them questions. And we also have Superclass, which you mentioned, which is a full day of interactive developer training on day 0 on the 16th that we call it. So, and that's basically just like 300 developers in a room playing Twilio Quest, which is a video game that teaches you how to do Twilio better. And we have Twilio developers on hand there. We have our developer education team, which are developers who just sit around and work on tools and documentation they're developers that help figure out how do we better educate developers. And they're really, really talented at it, and they've created this awesome training around it. So, whether you're there for the social aspects to meet other like-minded developers, whether you're there because you have like a very specific professional itch to scratch and you want to, sharpen your Twilio skills. And if that's the case and you do that best by writing code, then you have Twilio Quest and Superclass there for you. If you do that best by listening to experts talk about stuff, then we have breakout sessions. If you're there because you want to be the first to use stuff, then we have the keynote and we have Jeff, our CEO, who will live code. If you're there because you want to like see celebrities and who come to tech conferences, we have a few of those there too. We have the creators of Westworld there, talk about AI. Tony Hawk's going to be there. We have OK Go is going to be performing. So I typically find that at Signal, if you're into Twilio in any capacity, there's going to be something there that you're going to absolutely love.
That's awesome. I was going to ask you what you're excited about, but I don't honestly think that you're actually excited. I think it came across. Yeah, there's a lot to do at Signal. Does Tony Hawk code? Joe is asking in the chat, does Tony Hawk code? I don't actually know the answer to that.
I don't want to give away any spoilers on that one. So
okay, no spoilers here on this show. But
all right,
yeah, we'll leave it at that. Joe, you're gonna have to stay tuned. You're either gonna have to come to Signal to find out, or you're gonna have to watch any of the coverage that we'll be doing right here. So if you're following twitch.tv/Twilio, this would be a good time to mention that I will be streaming from day 0 all the way through the end of Bash at Signal. So we'll have wall-to-wall coverage, and you'll get your question answered there. So
pretty excited about that.
So no spoilers, but you'll be there, Joe. Well, you gotta come by and say hi. Find me. I'll be the guy with the backpack that has a camera on it, or the guy walking around with somebody else that's holding the camera for me. I don't know. You'll be able to find me there. So come by the show and say hi for sure. What are some of the themes in Signal 2018, and who do we have speaking in some of those thematic areas that people should be looking forward to?
Yeah, that's a great question. One thing that we're doing a lot more of this year, and this is just based on feedback from previous Signals, is offering talks that really go deep on Twilio technical knowledge. So a big chunk of the talks are going to be Twilio deep dives and their presentations that are given by the developers and the PMs that are building these products. So that would be one theme I'd say, which is like going to be, that's been present year after year. But I do think that that's kind of if you think about people like going to a conference, but like, what is the thing that's going to convince a developer to convince their boss to buy them a ticket and fly them to San Francisco, put them up in a hotel? And it probably is something along the lines of, hey, I build tools for our company using Twilio, and if I go to this thing for a couple days, I will learn how to do that better. And the value that I provide the company after 2 days of that will be more than the few $1,000s of the ticket and the travel and stuff, right? And so that I think is the most straightforward thing that folks are the most straightforward theme of Signal, which is just going to be there every year after year, is we're going to help you get better at Twilio. We're going to make we're going to unlock new superpowers that you didn't know you have. Like we're going to give you, like, you're going to learn something through a conversation with a peer or with a Twilian that is going to help you add new features to your to the whatever app it is that you're working on, or it's going to help you get unstuck a day faster than you would have otherwise, or that's going to you're going to learn about that pothole that you would not have known about that you're going to hit in like 3 months as your app scales, and you're going to learn from folks who have already scaled their app. They're like, hey, look out for these gotchas, and here's how you avoid them, or here's the best practice. Like, yes, you built an app and it works fine domestically, but you're going to move internationally. And here's a whole bunch of stuff about telephony that maybe you don't know about and that you can learn about before you reach those milestones. So for anyone who's like building, shipping an app and then scaling an app that uses Twilio, you're going to find a lot of material here that's just going to help you do your job better. That's going to make you better at building that app. That's going to provide more value to your company. So I think that's kind of like table stakes, right? For Signal, like that's going to be present every year. And then each year there's typically a theme that we'll talk about in the keynote, and we'll bring in some extra speakers for. And so I'll talk about that for a second. But just first and foremost, Twilio is going to make you better at building stuff, or Signal will make you better at building stuff on Twilio. The theme we're rolling with this year is around AI and authentic communications. So, in the tech news, for the last couple of years, really a lot of talk about AI, and it really does have. If you think a couple of years ago, there was a lot of conversation around bots. and messaging bots. And a lot of folks are using Twilio's platform to build messaging bots, and a lot of folks use Twilio for conversations with their customers. And bots and AI is something that promises to make those interactions more efficient. But I think the risk there is that it can also make those interactions less human, and it can make your brand, your company, seem less authentic. There's not a lot of folks who really enjoy talking to a chatbot when you're trying to solve a customer service issue. And so one of the big conversations that we're having is like, how can we both harness the power and potential of AI, but also make sure that our conversations with our customers or with our friends stay authentic and human. And so we'll be bringing in some folks from the keynote stage. We're going to have the creators of Westworld, which is probably the most popular and successful show about AI that's come out in the last few years. And then in the breakout sessions, we'll have Emily Prize from Lyft. She does their internal developer training around machine learning and AI. She'll be talking about the ethics of AI. Sam Phippen, who's a developer at DigitalOcean and he's one of the core maintainers of RSpec and very prolific speaker on the Ruby circuit. He'll be speaking about the just current state of academia when it comes to AI. He has a master's in machine learning and keeps up on all the papers. And we'll just be talking about what can AI do and what can it not do. And so our hope with some of those breakout sessions around machine learning and AI is for a developer like myself. I come from a Ruby background and I do a lot of Python these days. I don't have a deep knowledge in AI and machine learning. I don't really have that foundation. And it's sort of as a developer, I hear it being talked about around. I'm like, oh, I kind of know that's important and it's a thing. And I kind of know the buzzwords, but I don't have the same foundation there that I might have with, say, web development or whatnot. And the goal with a lot of these breakout sessions is to arm developers with a really strong introduction to these concepts so that we can start their journey where they can go learn more. And we're just bringing in experts and people who are really great teachers to teach us about these things.
I think that's excellent. It's underestimated how much power there is in just sort of broadening your base understanding with a concept without really having to go deep. I think I think it's been described as knowing what you need to know. Really helps you fully understand something. If you don't know that you need to know something, there's no way to ever learn it, right? So I think that makes perfect sense.
And just on that topic too, I think there's also going to be, kind of what we're hoping to do for the progression of the day is to start off with talks like that, and then move more practical as the day progresses. So Bear Douglas is the head of developer relations at Slack, and she's going to be presenting a session with Chloe Condon, who's one of the developer advocates at Sentry. And they're going to be giving a talk about how you build better Slack bots. So if you're looking for just really practical, pragmatic, code, we're going to have that too, right? And so that's what we really tried to create as a good mix of talks for developers who are looking for high level introduction, and then as the day or the conference progresses, they can walk away with really solid practical tools and techniques that they can go back and start putting in action the next week at work. I will tell a story if that's cool. This will go on for a couple of minutes, but I want to tell you all a story about OKGo. And because if you've been to twilio.com/signal, you can see that OKGo is going to be speaking, and then they're going to be performing. And 6 months or so ago, when I heard internally that OKGo is going to be performing at Signal, I was kind of like, okay, why? And I only really knew of OKGo from the treadmill video that they did 20, 15 years ago. I'm not sure. And then didn't really pay much. I'm not super into music. I kind of have 4 or 5 bands that I listen to on repeat all the time while writing code or writing or whatever. But then back earlier this summer, this really cool thing happened. We had an event out in LA, and then we tagged onto that. We hosted this hackathon with Andy, the guitarist from OKGo, to brainstorm ways that they could use code to build tools that would allow them to interact with fans at their performances. And so we got to spend a day with Andy, and he opened up the day, this hackathon. We had about a dozen developers there, by talking about just kind of OK Go's philosophy and whatnot. And like, if you haven't seen him, like, go watch. Oh man, I'm going to forget the names. Just Google like OK Go's videos, and maybe we can add some links in post or something like that. But there's the one video in particular they do on the zero gravity plane. It's called the Vomit Comet. It goes up and does a parabolic arc and gives you like 30 or 60 seconds of weightlessness. And they filmed this entire video on this thing, doing these arcs with like no cuts, and it's incredible. And each one of their videos is like that. And it turns out like they are hackers. Like they love building these crazy things. And then Andy himself is a developer. And as it turns out, you have a lot of downtime while you're on the road. And Andy was using that downtime over the years. He built like a software company. He built this huge Rails app that was serving like hundreds of thousands of daily active users, that was powering a iPhone app. The dude, I like sat next to him for a good chunk of the day, and he had never worked for Twilio before. And within a couple hours, he had built this Rails app that had this really cool interactive demo that allowed him to interact with everyone in the room. And later on in the day, we had probably about a dozen demos from folks who had been there hacking on stuff over the day of like different ideas they had for ways that bands could interact. And so OK Go is going to be talking about just their, creativity, and then their philosophy, which is like really fascinating. Like they're totally our people, right? Like when we often say at Twilio, we can't wait to see what you build. OK Go has built some really cool stuff over the course of their career. And in doing so, they've won a Grammy. And then they're going to be performing at Bash, and it's going to be a pretty awesome performance. You'll be able to see some new stuff that they've actually built during their performance. So I would just encourage y'all, like, if we say like what's something I'm looking forward to, like that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to seeing there. And it doesn't like immediately make sense as to like why OK Go would be at the Twilio conference, but this has happened a couple times over the years, and I will say that after Signal each year, there's like the speaker that I was like, I'm really not sure why they were there, and I'm really not sure how someone convinced everyone at Twilio that like this person should be there, but I'm so glad they did. And I suspect OK Go is going to be that this year, where like that's going to be the thing that people are talking about when they walk away.
That's really cool. From a production standpoint, I dropped a link into the Twitch chat to the Zero Gravity video. I believe it's called Upside Down and Inside Out by OK Go. On YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, the link to that video is down in the video description. So check that out there.
The Rube Goldberg video is another great one of theirs as well.
Oh yeah. We'll drop that one in too. Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to them too. And like you said, it kind of shook my head a little bit. Like I knew they did crazy videos. I knew from watching some behind the scenes stuff that a lot of the stuff that they did required a lot of technological know-how and behind the scenes work to get any of that stuff to work. And from a video production standpoint, I was super excited about that. But as a live performance group, I was like, okay, why? But I think that story speaks volumes, and I literally can't wait to see what they're doing at Signal. So it's
going to be awesome. Yeah, no problem. I actually got to go hop into a rehearsal for our keynote, just looking at some of the new products. We're going to be debuting cool. Several new products here, and got to go like watch the rehearsal to figure out. But I will just say, for folks who have been to Signal every year, or who have been to a Signal before, that Jeff, our CEO, is first and foremost a developer. And every year he gets up on stage and demos the new product that we're releasing that year by doing some live coding with it. And this year is no different. There's going to be some pretty great live coding from Jeff EL. It's always a little bit more dangerous than all of us are comfortable with, and he goes for it. And every year it's it's like fingers crossed, and he pulls it off, and he's so good, and it's one of my favorite parts. One of the more inspiring parts, I think, of the show is I think we're really fortunate to have a CEO who is a developer and keeps his chops up and gets up on stage in front of 3,000 people and writes some code. So we got to run to rehearsal and watch some of that stuff. But it's going to be really good. I'd say if anyone's on the fence, especially if you live in the Bay Area and you're tempted, it's going to be a really good show. And I think you'll walk away with more than enough knowledge to justify the expense. But more than that, you're going to just meet some really great people. We're really fortunate to have the community we do. And there's going to be just every year it just feels like it's like going back to see some of my favorite people in the world who get together in San Francisco once a year. And would love to, if you do make it, would love to meet you, would love to introduce you, not you, Brent, but anyone who's watching. I'm excited to see you too, of course. But little known fact, Brent and I started on the same day at Twilio about 5 years ago. But yeah, I mean, if you do end up there, I just say, please come introduce yourself. And would love to introduce you to some other developers in the community, because I really that's the part I'm looking forward to the most. It's those conversations with developers that are the things that get etched in my memory that I'm really thankful for when going home at the end of a long week.
All right, Greg, thanks for stopping by the show. I'm super excited to see you out at Signal. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to come talk with us about the big show.
Dude, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for watching.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
All right. See ya.
Greg is just a joy to talk to. Thank you, Greg, for stopping by the show. If you see Greg at Signal, say hi and thank him for all he is doing for the Twilio community. If you want to catch interviews like this live, we record Twilio Weekly live Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern over at twitch.tv/Twilio. If you toss us a follow there on Twitch, you'll know when we go live and you won't miss anything. You'll also be ready to go for the Signal TV live stream broadcast that starts on Tuesday. That's all I have for this week. As always, I'm out of here. See you next week.